New concerns over Olympic safety. Less than 2 weeks before the Winter Games begin in Sochi, Russia. Authorities there are on the lookout for 3 potential suicide bombers, one of whom may already be inside the Olympic security zone. And in a new video, an Islamic militant group in Dagestan claims responsibility for December's twin bombings in the city of Volgograd and threatens further strikes in Sochi. We're back with Bret Stephens, Wall Street Journal columnist and deputy editor Dan Henninger, and editorial board member Matt Kaminsky. So, Matt, how serious is the terror threat in and around Sochi?
It has been serious for the last basically 10, 15 years. What you've had there started as a separatist movement in the south of Russia, predominantly Muslim areas. These are not Arabs, they're Caucasus people. And as Russia has really, destroyed Chechnya.
They're Muslim, but
they are Muslim,
right. And
they have a group called the Islamic Emirate of the Caucasus, led by a guy named Doku Umarov, who was one of the earliest Al-Qaeda affiliates to be formally named an Al-Qaeda affiliate. But they have a different agenda. It's very much a domestic agenda. They really want to strike at the Putin regime. Unfortunately, the Sochi Olympics are now, it's the prize event for Vladimir Putin, and they are going to do everything possible to carry something off.
But Russia is known for its internal security. It's in many ways a security state, an authoritarian state. Are you saying that they are going to be less capable of really providing security than would a country like Britain, London did with the Summer Olympics?
Well, they have actually twice the number of policemen that London deployed 2 years ago.
For a smaller
For
games.
Sochi, much smaller place. They can probably lock down Sochi itself, but they will try and probably strike, they can strike further away. Vladimir Putin has the dictator's traditional conceit that he mistakes control for security and the heavy hand for some of the better intelligence gathering that you need to stop this kind of stuff.
It's an incompetent security state. That's the basic problem with it. And that's why Russia has been hit time and again since 9/11, or even before then, with multiple terrorist attacks on Moscow metro stations and Moscow airport. Just a few weeks ago, the city of Volgograd, once known as Stalingrad. Also, look, Russia's a very, very big place, so it's very easy for these terrorists to strike practically at will in any number of cities spread out over thousands of square miles.
But we had a terrorist bombing at the Atlanta Games, so it's not as if we're immune from that. And the Tsarnaevs, who went to Dagestan, we know that they traveled. Well, at least one of them traveled there.
Well, Dagestan, by the way, not all that far from Sochi.
Right, but they traveled there to come back here and was radicalized, or at least helped with his bomb building before he came back.
But here's the difference, Paul. In Atlanta or in Boston, that was a little group, a cell of terrorists. Russia has terrorist armies on its soil. There's almost no other country other than Syria and Pakistan that have terrorist armies residing there, and they're close to Sochi. That is the problem. Now the question becomes, this has been true, as Matt has suggested, for many years, well over a decade. Why did the International Olympic Committee allow these Olympics to be staged in a place like this?
And what's your answer?
Money. It's because of money. And this has always been true. I mean, as one commentator said, it's kind of the Olympics' contribution to authoritarian branding. They staged them in Russia. They staged them in places like China because they want these extravaganzas.
Most famously, 1936 in Nazi Germany.
The 2 countries that lost out here were Austria and South Korea, both of which have infrastructure in place to stage a Winter Olympics. Instead, they chose a place that had no infrastructure.
I mean, ultimately, this Olympics and the whole security question comes down to Putin's conceit and Putin's hubris. I mean, we're having an Olympics in a subtropical village or city of Sochi. That itself is this incredible conceit that he can effectively change or control the climate for the purpose of these Olympics, and also the idea that you're going to have an Olympics really not all that far from Chechnya, Dagestan, Ingushetia. These places are bywords for terrorism, and you're going to maintain a perfectly secure Olympics for thousands of visitors.
Well, one of the reasons Putin wanted the Games, Matt, in Russia was because he wanted it to be a showcase for Putin's Russia, the new modern Russia, forget the Soviet Union.
Right.
And are the Games having that effect on the Russian image, the one he wanted?
Not the one he wanted, but it's certainly become a showcase for modern Russia. This is the most expensive game.
But not in a good way.
It is plagued, I mean, all the construction projects are plagued with corruption. There's a phrase now in Russian, they call it the Korumpiad instead of the Olympiad. And it's also sort of shown, you know, sort of Vladimir's, it's really much, it's a one-man state. And it's him who decided to put it there.
Matt knows this because he's traveled a lot to Russia. When we come back with the 2014 midterms approaching, vulnerable Democrats try to distance themselves from Obamacare. Can they run against the law and win?